صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
حسين الغريب الغريب الحسين، حسين الشهيد شهيد الحسين، حسين الغريب الغريب الحسين، حسين الشهيد شهيد الحسين. Salams on the heart of my Mawla Hussein, salams on the lips of my blessed Hussein. For days in the desert, your body remains with thousands of arrows, your shroud they became, and unobeying when the millions will pray. The grief and the mourning for you, Ya Hussein, Hussein al-Gharib al-Gharib al-Hussein, Hussein al-Shahid
شهيد الحسين.
The screams of the children thirsty for water, the duty was sent to abast our Savior. The Lion of God could be seen riding faster to reach Al-Furat and to please His Sakina. But how does he fall from the horse with no hands? The flag of Islam laying bare on the sand. Hussein al-Gharib al-Gharib al-Hussein, Hussein al-Shahid al-Shahid al-Hussein. A lady was seen peering out from the tent, a cry from the heavens that Zahra presents. Oh Shimmer, why on his chest the sword stained in blood was Hussein's final test. Hussein, to your mother, it's time to ascend. Your trials in Karbala have come to an end. Hussein al-Gharib al-Gharib al-Hussein, Hussein al-Shahid al-Shahid al-Hussein. Sakina would cry every night for father, and Zainab would cradle Hussein's little daughter. But when they presented his head on a platter, Sakina could not bear to live any longer. But no one could comfort or soothe young Sakina. She died in the prison with Zainab beside her. Hussein al-Gharib al-Gharib al-Hussein, Hussein al-Shahid Shahid al-Hussein. The fire, the burning, the tents up in flames. Oh Zainab, protect Imam Ali our children are waiting for you to return. Hussein al-Gharib al-Gharib al-Hussein, Hussein al-Shaheed al-Shaheed al-Hussein, Hussein al-Gharib al-Gharib al-Hussein, Hussein al-Shaheed al-Shaheed al-Hussein. Salawat.
Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear friends, we're here, another session. It's been really nice spending all of this time with you and having these conversations with my other friends here. And we've learned a lot so far. And today, I'm so happy to have Mohammad Mahdi Karim here to share with us a few valuable insights into his journey.
It's my honor, Imranali, and actually, just for the viewers, Imranali and I know each other quite a bit. In fact, Imranali was one of the first people who taught me how to recite Quran with a tune, so it's an honor to be able to share this platform with.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. And how apt that we talk about my voice now.
Absolutely.
Today we're going to talk about Mohammad Mahdi's journey in terms of public speaking and how we can use it for the greater good. And he will help us actually fulfill and realize our potential in that. So really looking forward to this talk with you. But first things first, we must find out exactly what you feel about who a Husseini is. Because we've been on a journey here. From the first Ashur, we've spoken about so many different aspects of a Husseini. And the boys and girls have been working on themselves. And now we're really excited to hear your viewpoint on what a Husseini is.
Absolutely, and quite simply for me, being a Husseini is someone who acts on the lessons that they learn from Karbala. And I think there's two reasons why it's very, very important to do this. The first reason is when we act on the lessons that we learn from Karbala, it helps us get closer to God. Let's think of Karbala like a metaphorical ladder.
Okay.
When we use this ladder, it helps us get closer to God. So when we listen to the story of Karbala and we mourn, that's only half of the story.
Yes.
We've got a responsibility to actually act on Karbala and the lessons that we learn from it after. This ladder is like a gift. Imagine if someone gave us a gift. We're not going to go around parading the gift, saying, look at this gift, it's absolutely brilliant, and then not use it ourselves. So just to use a little bit of an example, if we claim we're a Husseini but we don't act on it, it's like putting the badge of a Ferrari on a rusty car. It's fake, it's not authentic. Yeah. So in the same way, we have to claim to be a Husseini, but we have to follow that up with actions as well. The second reason why it's very important to act on the lessons that we learn from Karbala is because, as we said, Karbala is a gift. But in order to truly appreciate the gift, you can only do that through acting on it. If I gave you a box of chocolates, you might say thank you. But the real thank you comes after you eat the chocolates or you act on it. And so to say thank you to the Imam, the best way we can do that is by acting on these lessons that we learn from Karbala. In fact, there's a lovely poem, it's a Moroccan poem, 12th century one, which talks about why it's important to thank and love the Ahlul Bayt. It goes, Inna fil jannati nahran min laban, li'aliyin wa Husseinin wa Hassan. Surely, in paradise there is a river made of milk for Imam Ali, Imam Hussein and Imam Hassan. Kullu man kana muhibban lahumu. يَدْخُلُ الْجَنَّةَ مِنْ غَيْرِ حَزَانٍ. Anyone who loves these three shall enter the garden of paradise without any misery. حُبُّ أَحْلِ الْبَيْتِ فَرْضٌ عِنْدَنَا وَبِهَذَا الْحُبِّ لَا نَخْشَى الْمِحَانِ. For us, loving the Ahlul Bayt and the family of the Prophet is an obligation. For with this love, we should fear no tribulation. So this is why it's really, really important that we thank and appreciate the Ahlul Bayt in a full and true way. Now just quickly to add on to this, so what does this mean in practical terms? For me, one of the beauties of the message of Karbala is that right and wrong is pretty black and white. There's no in between. Something is either right or wrong. If you see someone cheating or you see someone breaking the rules for their own benefit, then you've got to stand up and say, hang on, this isn't right. Because even if you sit back, Imam Hussein beautifully puts that those who stay silent whilst they witness oppression are guilty of oppression themselves.
Yes, very true.
So right and wrong is very clear. Never ever stay silent.
Oh, nice. That's very, very comprehensive, and so many different elements to it. And I really like the gift analogy, because when you were saying that, I was thinking of, yes, when someone gives me a gift, you say thank you, but that's just the first step. Now, in a week's time, I've kept that gift at home, and the same person comes home and says, "Oh, you haven't opened my gift,"
Yeah.
Or they see it in the bin. That's even worse.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's a very, very deep and a very different way of looking at that. Imam Hussein has given us this beautiful gift,
Yeah,
and if we don't make the most of it, then what would he think?
precisely.
Very, very good. Nice. Thank you so much for sharing that. That
No,
was
my
very
pleasure.
beautiful. And that poem is one of my favorite poems.
It's so good. So good.
And it has a good lesson in it, that if we follow the Ahlul Bayt, we're safe.
Definitely.
We're good. But we have to follow them. Now, tell me, your journey about the voice.
Yeah.
How did it start?
So the journey of the voice actually started. I used to attend these debating sessions at Madrasa, at Stanmore actually, and I was a terrible public speaker, really, really bad, shy, timid, and I was so close to quitting, but I was kept in.
Can I share a
Why?
story?
Absolutely, go for it.
I remember him when he used to come to my home to learn Quran. Literally, his mom would come, drop him to the door. He wouldn't say a word. He would look down, just about got the salam out of the way. Come, we'd go, we'd recite Quran. He'd recite a bit of Quran. I'd say, okay, you need to recite like this. Still the same thing. He was very, very, very shy. And now to see him this way, it's complete two opposites.
Absolutely, and credit to the parents for sticking at it and keeping me in there. A lot of credit should go to that. But over time, it's sort of developed through school debating networks, through going abroad and debating as well. And then recently, pandemic and lockdown has been brilliant because it's given me the time to really grow and accelerate my own public speaking business. But just on the voice, I think the voice is one of our biggest powers and our biggest strengths as well. You know, we're using our voice when we're having a conversation now. When you want to persuade someone to do something, you use your voice. Even on the sports field, as a captain, as a leader, you have to use your voice as well. When you want to lift people out of feeling negative, you use your voice. When you want to spread positivity, you use your voice as well. When you want to teach people and educate people, you use your voice. But the voice has an even higher potential than this, because you can use your voice to topple kings. When voice is converted into protest and enough protest happens, then you can bring down kings through that. You can use your voice to spread religion. Our religion, 1.8 billion followers worldwide, was spread primarily through the tongue, through the voice. The voice was also Bibi Zainab's most powerful weapon against Yazid. She had so much, and all of the family of the Ahlul Bayt had so much thrown on them, but the best way she could combat that was through her voice. So, as you can see, the voice is a really, really powerful tool. But, like with anything that is good, it does have its areas where it can be bad as well.
Yeah.
Let's use the example of a mobile phone. Like, the mobile phone is fantastic. It's going to be our future. Let's not beat around the bush. You know, those people who say that spending time on your mobile phone's not great. I mean, it's going to be the way that
But
life
that doesn't
works
mean
going into
you
the
use
future.
your mobile phone during majlis.
Well,
Let's put them
exactly.
away.
Just a disclaimer. But like the mobile phone is really good, there's two instances where it's not so good. If you use it in the wrong way, like during Majlis, but also if you use it too much as well. Same way. If you use your voice in the wrong way, it's not particularly good. Just as the voice has the potential to lift people up, you can use it to gossip, slander, lie, and bring others and in time yourself down as well. And also, you can use your voice too much. I'm sure you know those people who just talk and talk and talk, and every time they open their mouth, you just think, I'm going to switch off because this guy talks too much. You don't want to be one of those people, do you? So make sure every single word that you say has an impact, and make sure you measure how much you say as well.
Very true. So some very important points over here that we learned, that the voice is very underrated.
Yeah.
Well, it can create amazing impact if used in the right way. But obviously we shouldn't overuse. And remember in the first 10 nights, we discussed about the 3-filter rule, where before we say anything, we take our thoughts through these 3 filters. So we ask ourselves whether what I'm saying is truthful, whether what I'm going to say is beneficial, and what I'm going to say is good. And then if the answer is yes to all of that, then we speak. So yeah, it's putting everything in place,
Exactly.
which is quite important actually. Now we know you've taken us through your journey from being a shy boy into now who you are, and you make some very impactful speeches. And that's another lesson for us to learn, that just because we feel that we may not be good at something, or we may feel that we're not passionate about something, if we persevere, if we carry on doing it and practicing, then we can go to places and become amazing at what we're doing. Now, as a Husseini, that's our theme at the moment. As a Husseini, why is using our voice important?
Brilliant question. So let's look at the story of Karbala from a purely historical point of view. Imam Hussein stood up against Yazid, who's the Umayyad ruler, because he didn't like the injustices that Yazid was committing. Islam had taken a complete U-turn from what was being propagated during the Prophet's time. So Imam used his voice in a different way. He didn't at all times vocalize, but making a stand against Yazid was another way that he could have used his voice against the injustice which was happening. So this is a lesson for us, that whenever we see an injustice, we've got to stand up. And using our voice doesn't necessarily mean talking. It might mean making a stand in a different way, like Imam Hussein did as well. So when you see someone who is being treated unjustly, when you see, for example, someone being treated unequally because of something that's out of their control, racism as an example, when you see someone weak being trampled by someone strong, it is your duty to stand up against that. And standing up's not easy, because there's a lot to lose. In the case of Imam Hussein, he sacrificed his family and closest companions.
Yes.
It's not easy at all. But the one thing to remember is that the end goal, if your intention is right, will be much bigger than the sacrifice that he gave, because at the end of the day, our religion was saved, which was the ultimate goal for him.
Very true.
In the same way, if you ever think that in the short term something might go wrong or something bad might happen because you stand up, always remember, if your intention is right, in the long term, it's going to be worth it. This is summed up beautifully by a 12th century Turkish poet, a Sunni, but a great lover of Imam Hussein. He's called Yunus Emre. He said, "Look at how truth always triumphs. The same Imam Hussein who died thirsty in Karbala is now serving water from the fountain of paradise." So truth always triumphs. So just in the short term, just because it doesn't look good, doesn't mean things won't change for the long term.
That's very deep and very important to note, that you must stand up for what you believe in and what is right.
Absolutely.
Are we ever too young to use our voice?
Not at all, no. And a lot of stories come to mind for this. In fact, during the time of the Prophet, when the Prophet conquered Medina, and he had to come back, when the Prophet conquered Makkah, and he had to come back to Medina, he had to find someone to put in charge of Makkah. And he appointed a 20-year-old, Utbah bin Usayd. The people around him said, "What do you think you're doing? We've got loads of elders who are experienced. Why are you trusting such a young person to do this?" And he said beautifully back to them that just because you're old doesn't necessarily mean you have the experience to do this. Age and the ability to do something don't necessarily have correlations. Yes, sometimes they might do, but by no means, if you are young, it doesn't mean that you can't do anything. Other examples include the first ambassador to Medina that the Prophet invested in was someone called Mus'ab bin Umair, 26-year-old. The Prophet even invested his trust in a 17-year-old, Usama bin Zayd, to go and lead the army of the Prophet in the Battle of Mu'tah against the Byzantines. 17-year-old being trusted to lead an army. So by no means is it too young to lead or to make a change. In fact, look at Karbala. You have Qasim, Ali Asghar, Abdullah bin Hassan, all youngsters. And they weren't too young to make a stand for social justice and change. So neither are you.
Amazing. There's one thing that I know a lot of our friends here, they're very keen on speaking and using their voice for different things, reciting or giving speeches. If they had more interest in that and would want to know more, is there any way you can help out and just give like a course or a lesson on your journey and how they can improve?
Absolutely. By all means, I'd be happy to do that. And look, no doubt at the moment we have a lot of atrocities that we face. We look at the Uyghur Muslims in China being persecuted for just practicing their faith. Yemen, Yemen, you've got 3 million people with acute, which means severe hunger. You've got children dying every 10 minutes. But even if we look closer to home, we've got so many homeless people on the streets, 320,000.
Very true.
That's an injustice of our time as well. So there's lots of opportunity to speak out about that. And I'd encourage you to do that. But one thing to note is that we need to be politically engaged for that. I think that's really, really important. Now, some people think that political engagement is just protest, protest, protest. And that's not enough. Because if you protest without having a position to protest with, then people won't listen to you. So the one message that I'd say to you is that using your voice is a two-stage process. Get reputation, get some influence, and then use your voice.
Amazing.
Because only then will people listen to you. So get politically engaged. I want to see more Muslim MPs. I'd like to see more
Inshallah.
Muslim journalists. And I'd like to see more Muslims who can influence the landscape.
Thank you so much, Muhammad Mahdi. And if you're interested to follow Muhammad Mahdi's footsteps and to make a difference and to use your voice, please do keep a lookout for the message from Annex and fill out your details, and we'll have an amazing time with Muhammad Mahdi, inshallah, inshallah. Now is the time where we take our hearts to Karbala. And we remember what happened in Kufa. In the court of Ubaydullah Ibn Ziyad looked around at the captives happily and noticed a lady. He inquired about the lady. He was told that she was Zainab, the daughter of Imam Ali alayhi salam. He wanted to tell her how rejoiced he was at what had happened. So he said to her, "Praise be to Allah who exposed you to shame, who killed you and proved you liars." Lady Zainab alayhi salam said, "Praise be to Allah who honored us by choosing Muhammad from among us as his prophet and purified us with a perfect purification. Rather, only a pleasure mongerer is exposed to shame, and a sinner is proven to be a liar, and we are neither." Ibn Ziyad then asked her, "How have you seen what Allah has done to your family?" Here, Bibi Zainab says, and she gives her famous reply that we all know, "I see only beauty. I see him treating them most beautifully. These are people to whom Allah prescribed martyrdom, so they leaped from their beds, welcoming it. And Allah shall gather you and them, and you shall be questioned and charged." A blind man by the name of Abdullah ibn Afif, hearing the khutbah of Zainab, asks, "Is this the daughter of the Imam? Why do I hear the words of Ali ibn Abi Talib?" In the court of Kufa, he is told that these words are being spoken by Ali ibn Abi Talib's daughter Zainab. He asks what has forced the daughter of Zahra out into the open, addressing the men in the court of Kufa. And Abdullah ibn Afif began protesting to Ibn Ziyad, and so he was killed. Ala la'natullahi ala al-qawmi al-zalimin. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Let us all take our hearts to Karbala and send our salutations to Imam. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdillah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifina'ik. عليك مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.
يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين شام هاي شام شام هاي شام شام هاي شام तेरी उम्मत के ज़ेवर पे निकल तेरी उम्मत के ज़ेवर पे निकल ओ देखो नाना चली हूँ मैं शाम शाम हाय शाम से धोती बाबंदेर संसर बरे है ना बाबंदेर संसर बरे है ना देखो भैया चली हूँ मैं शाम शाम हाय शाम शाम हाय शाम शाम हाय शाम जिस ज़ैनब को तुमने बरादर कभी नजरे उठा कर न देखा हाथ रस्सी से मेरे बंधे हैं और सर पर नहीं मेरे पर्दा किसी कूफे में जाऊंगी गाजी किसी कूफे में जाऊंगी गाजी जब बलबे में आएगा नाम शाम हाय शाम शाम हाय शाम शाम हाय शाम जैसे दरबार पासा रहा है मेरा दिल डूबता जा रहा है मैं तो घर में कम बोलती थी भाई तुझको तो सब कुछ पता है किस तरह से करेगी बता दे किस तरह से करेगी बता दे एक शराबी से ज़ैनब कलाम शाम हाय शाम शाम हाय शाम शाम हाय शाम दिल ये कहता है रो रो के भैया काश अब्बास मौजूद होता काट देता वो उसकी ज़बां को कोई बागी अगर मुझको कहता देखी थी फिर मैं किस तरह लेता देखी थी फिर मैं किस तरह लेता कोई ज़ैनब का मुझ में नाम शाम हाय शाम शाम हाय शाम शाम हाय शाम कह रहे हैं ये हंस हंस के शामी आने वाले हैं दरबार बागी जिसने अजदाद मारे हमारे और रही है यहाँ उसकी बेटी कुलता पानी पे छतों से कुलता पानी पे छतों से पत्थरों का करो इंतजाम शाम हाय शाम शाम हाय शाम शाम हाय शाम शाम हाय या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन